So Palantir just dropped an earnings report that people are calling a perfect 10, and their own CEO says was truly iconic. But, behind the huge stock jump and all the big talk, what really went down? We're going to break down their massive Q4 2025 results, piece by piece, to really get how they did it and what it means for the future of AI. All right, let's just jump right in with the number that completely floored the market. In Q4, Palantir's revenue shot up by an incredible 70% year over year. Now, for a company this big, that's not just growth, that's straight up hyper acceleration. It's actually their highest growth rate since they went public.
But wait, it gets even crazier. In the software world, there's this thing called the rule of 40. The idea is that your growth rate plus your profit margin should add up to at least 40% to be considered healthy. Well, Palantir didn't just beat it, they completely shattered it with a score of 127. That's a combination of insane growth and profitability that you almost never see.
So right, that brings us to the big question, the whole reason we're doing this explainer. How in the world did they pull this off? A 127 rule of 40 score doesn't just fall out of the sky. It has to be the result of a very specific and honestly, a pretty radical strategy. Okay, let's dive into the first part of our story. What makes this a historic quarter? To really get how big of a deal this was, we've got to look at what Palantir actually reported versus what Wall Street thought they were going to report. And this is where the blowout really starts. What's so wild here is just the size of the beat. I mean, look at this. They didn't just kind of sneak past expectations. Check out that revenue line. The experts were looking for about $1.34 billion. Palantir came in with over $1.4 billion. That's a beat of almost $66 million. This wasn't just a good quarter, it was a genuine shock to the system. And trust me, the company knows it. This quote from their CEO, Alex Karp, that's not the usual stuff you hear on an earnings call. Calling it iconic and historic, he's sending a message loud and clear. This wasn't a lucky break. In their mind, this is a major turning point. So where did all this historic growth come from? Well, when you start to peel back the layers of the onion, the answer becomes crystal clear. It was almost all driven by one single market. And this chart just lays it all out perfectly. On one side, you have their international business, kind of putting along at 8% growth, but on the other side, wow, the US commercial business just exploded, up 137%. This isn't just a small difference. It's two completely different worlds. It's a huge sign that AI adoption is just accelerating like crazy, specifically right here in the American market. And the key thing to get here is that this isn't just some abstract number. It's being fueled by real, massive deals. I mean, look at this. We're talking about a $96 million deal with a healthcare company that they landed after just 2 boot camps. That just shows how their AI platform is totally collapsing what used to be a really long sales process. And you can see existing customers are spending way more, really fast, which proves the platform is delivering huge value. So, all of this brings us to the company's core idea, their big philosophy. See, beyond these just eye-popping numbers, Palantir is making a bigger argument. They're saying these results prove they're not just another company in the crowd. They believe they're in a category all by themselves. And this is that N of one idea you hear their CEO talk about. The concept is that Palantir is a category of one, that they're operating in a space where they don't really have any direct competitors. He's basically arguing that you can't get numbers like this in a normal, crowded market. The only way to explain it is that they've created something totally new. Now, at the very heart of this whole N of one strategy is how they think about AI. They have this term, commodity cognition. It sounds complex, but it's simple. They're saying the AI models themselves, the things that everyone is racing to build, are becoming common, almost interchangeable. So Palantir's strategy is don't get in that race. Instead, focus entirely on building the platform that lets companies use all those models to solve their hardest real-world problems. Okay, so what does that actually look like in the real world? It means taking software out of the abstract and applying it to some of the most critical, most tangible challenges that our country faces in industry and defense. A perfect example is this thing called SHIPPOs. Palantir is working with the US Navy to completely overhaul the industrial base for shipbuilding. And we're not just talking about installing some new software here. This is a huge strategic effort to fix systemic problems like massive delays and cost overruns that have been hurting the industry for decades. And the results? They're just staggering. I mean, look at these numbers from just one shipbuilder. A planning process for a submarine that used to take 160 hours of work by hand now takes just 10 minutes. Reviews that took weeks, now they're done in under an hour. This is how you make the value of software totally concrete. You're literally turning time into a weapon.
And they're not just investing in code either, they're investing in people. They've launched this new fellowship just for military veterans. The whole idea is to take their incredible real-world experience from the battlefield and train them to become AI builders. It's a really smart way to connect that deep expertise with the technical skill to actually solve problems.
All right, so that brings us to the future. After a quarter that they themselves called historic, the million-dollar question is, can they keep this up? Well, if you look at the company's own forecast, it seems they think this hypergrowth isn't just going to continue, it might even speed up. Just take a look at their forecast for 2026. Top line, they're calling for 61% total revenue growth. But the absolutely stunning number is the US commercial revenue. They are guiding for more than 115% growth. They are telling the world loud and clear that the US is their engine, and that the explosive growth we just saw, yeah, that's the new normal.
And so that leaves us with this huge question hanging over everything. Is their whole N of one idea right? Have they actually carved out this unique space that no one else can touch? Or are they just riding the biggest wave of an AI boom that will eventually bring in a ton of new competition? The numbers this quarter were definitely historic, but the answer to that question, well, that's going to define their next chapter.